I'm an AARP Hawaii volunteer. Welcome to our Women's Fitness Series, Elevate Your Pelvic Health. This is part 2 of our 3-part series, Tuesday series. There we go. AARP is a nonprofit organization with 140,000 members in Hawaii aged 50 years and older. However, we are committed to ensuring our members and their family have access to information and services that can help them lead a healthy lifestyle and a quality of life as they grow older. Just a quick review of Zoom controls. Your microphone should be on mute. You can tell it that it is with a red cross over it. We recommend that during the program, you change your view to speaker side by side. You can do that at the top right of your screen. It is okay to have your camera off. This is instructor-led and cameras are completely optional. Please use the chat to send questions or comments. That's the icon that looks like a cartoon bubble. One other technical detail, we are recording this program and we'll send out the recording and all the links after the program. Welcome to the second of 3 Zoom fitness programs focusing on pelvic health. Wellness coach Carmela Tafoya aims to enhance your pelvic health through 3 transformative 20-minute women's fitness sessions and 10 minutes of Q&A. Each session builds upon the last and will give you a solid start in improving your pelvic wellness. A daily 5 minutes of homework will be given to help you progress. Our hope is that you will be able to, let's see, yes, where did I go? Able to participate in all 3 sessions. However, as long as you register for each class, recordings will be emailed to you. Carmela Tafoya, a personal trainer and founder of Positive Moves Incorporated, brings her expertise to the forefront. Since 2004, she has been pioneering non-medication approaches to improve bladder control and overall pelvic health, making a significant impact on women's lives. Please note that Carmela is not a physician, and we recommend that you consult your physician before taking on new physical activities. Now it's time to turn it over to Carmela. Over to you, Carmela.
Aloha, everybody. Thank you for being here. Welcome. I will start today with what I believe is one of the most important aspects of being in a community of people that are taking better care of themselves and interested in growing better, not older. And I have just the desire for everyone to spend just a 30-second period of time in your own mind thinking about what you're happy about with your health, what you're happy about with your body, what you're happy about with your body image. So I'll start. I'm happy that I'm 65 and I have no joint issues, joint pain. I take no medication. In the last 22 years, I started my personal training career 36 years ago and wasn't very healthy at the time. So if I can do it, anybody can do it. So just get a little in touch with something that really speaks to you positively. So now for a review, we are here to talk about essentially what is the best term that I've heard is called the pelvic pyramid. It's the area around the pelvis that supports the bladder. So this is a bit of a review from last week. There's a front of the pyramid, there's a back of the pyramid, and there's a floor. Last week we worked on exercises that impact the front of the floor, the TVA, the transverse abdominis. Today we're going to work on muscles that impact the back of the floor. And then our final session, final class will work on muscles that support the bottom of the floor. So that pyramid is really important to train to have the best control of your bladder. The bladder control issues are very prevalent. 40% of women in the country have some sort of leakage, whether it's sneezing, in other words, stress, incontinence, whether it's urge, you put your keys in the door when you get home and you got to go right then, or whether it's nocturnal incontinence. I myself have had periods of time where I've had each of those types of conditions self-diagnosed, and then luckily found a program exercise program to impact those muscles in 2002. The bladder is actually a muscle, and it's a muscle that's like a Ziploc bag, a cellophane bag. So what we know about the bladder is that it gets pressure on it from the internal organs. And that pressure is what then changes the nature of how the bladder does its job over the course of a lifetime. If you have any of those conditions, then your adherence to these exercises in and of themselves will take approximately 5 to 7 weeks before they are showing at least a 25% improvement in your symptoms. And that requires doing them regularly. So I'm going to start today with the exercise that was assigned last week as homework, that was to have been done 5 minutes every day. And I won't ask for a show of hands of who did their homework. That's up to you. So we're going to start off. I'm going to show the exercise in 2 different positions. All exercises can be done either standing or seated. If you do them standing, they're a bit more advanced. If you do them seated, they're a little safer, and it'll just take a little more adherence, a little more doing the exercises. Because since the bladder is a muscle, what do we know about muscle? If you don't use it, you lose it. Okay, so starting off standing, the first exercise looks like this. Standing against a wall, standing a little away from the wall, and pull in your lower tummy and relax. Now, as you do that, this is now an advanced version. You're gonna lift the muscles inside the internal part of your pelvis like an elevator to the belly button, and then relax. So lift the muscles inside the vagina. Lifting, 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 which causes some tautness in the front of the pelvis, in the abdominals, and relax. Now, if you choose to do them seated, it looks like this. Same thing. Seated. You place your fingers at the lower belly, lift, lift, lift the elevator, and relax. Be cautious, it's not a big squeeze of the butt muscle, or it's not a big movement. You should not have a big movement of the pelvis. The pelvis should not rock. So that's our first homework exercise from last week. Today, our first exercise, and I talked about it last week, is done seated. Everyone should do this one seated. It's called the pelvic rock. So your hands are just gently resting on your arms, and you rock to one side. So hike the hip up and relax. And then hike the hip up on the other side and relax. Now, roll the pelvis under or tuck the pelvis under, sucking in your tummy, and relax. And then arch the back and tilt the pelvis forward. A little easier to see from the side. It's rock, 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 side to side, front to back, or back to front. The order hardly matters. We're going to do it 2 more times. Rock, 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 rock. 1 more time. Facing forward. Rock, rock, front, back. Now, I talked about this exercise last week. I called it Elvis the pelvis. It's also a movement to do when you're sitting on the toilet and you have that type of incontinence where when you stand up, you got to go again. So some of your urine got trapped in the little folds of the cellophane bag. And when you do the rocking motion, just maybe once or twice, you will then void again and stand up and go your merry way and not have to rush back to the bathroom. Okay. Next, we're going to do a rotational exercise. You place your hands on your shoulders, or at least your hands in the air. If you can't get your hands to your shoulders, you can put your hands on your head. And then we're going to go into neutral spine. Neutral spine is pulling in the tummy just a little, but not arching or tilting the pelvis too much. And I'll again show it from the side in a moment. So we're going to rotate and rotate while you have that lower tummy pulled in. It can be either direction first, just not a ballistic movement, not a twisting movement. That could be counterproductive for your spine. So turn and turn. And my energy is being placed in that lower pelvic region. And turn. How many repetitions of these exercises to do is 5 to start. And do 2 more. Progression in exercise, called the either progressive overload principle or the gradual rate of progression, says that you should increase your repetitions and or the intensity regularly. For each of you, you'll have to decide that. When I'm personal training a client, I usually say, add 1 to 2 repetitions as long as you're not sore every time you work out. That might be a little aggressive when the pelvic exercises require us to have daily exercises. So maybe you increase your repetitions 1 to 2 every 3 or 4 days, or 1 to 2 a week. In a matter of a few weeks, you'll be doing many more repetitions with much more benefit resulting. So in other words, make sure you're pushing yourself a little bit to do a little more and a little more. Now, the next exercise is done standing. It cannot be done seated. If you're doing the exercise and you feel a little off balance, you can have a chair to your side. But it looks like this: hands on the wall, body against the wall. And we're going to lift opposite arm and opposite leg off the wall and pause. off the wall, and switch. But if you're holding the chair, you can just do that one side for some balance. And so either do 10 total or 5 per side if you're switching. And you're right against the wall, so there's not the opportunity to arch your back too much. Go ahead and continue while I walk you through it. So chest against the wall, arms elevated as high as feel comfortable. You can even elevate them out to the side a little. And then you're just lifting opposite arm and leg off the wall and pause. And then switch off the wall and pause. Finish your 5 reps. And then we have our last exercise. Breathe regularly. It's very important not to hold your breath when you exercise. And excellent job. Okay. The last exercise is a seated marching exercise. So to be done seated. And I'd like you to place your hand, either the back of your hand, or if you can turn your shoulder to place the palm on the back, lower back, as low as possible. For most people, it's more comfortable for your shoulder if you place the back of your hand at your lower back. And then we're simply gonna engage and energize the muscles by pulling in slightly, and then lift the knee and march. Lift the knee and march. From the side, it looks like this. Lift, lift. Don't forget to engage the muscles, or you will have less benefit. So some exercises that affect our pelvic pyramid are actually exercises that are normally done in an exercise class. The difference is we keep our focus on the muscles that support the bladder. And once again, this is your homework exercise for the next week. The back of the pelvic floor is called the multifidus. You don't have to remember that. They are small little muscles that attach on every vertebra all the way up the vertebral column to the neck. Small little muscles. So a big part of training these muscles actually is it improves posture, because the more that we hunch and have poor posture, the more internal pressure there is on that poor little bladder muscle. So once again, our marching is done seated very tall with the back of the hand and normal rhythmic breathing, no special way to breathe. Okay, we're going to begin to wrap up, and then we'll go into our Q&A. When the classes were happening in 3 cities around the country in early 2000s, what we found that was most important to the group of women we worked with in our studies, that they had a period of time to communicate. And this is just an invitation. So next week, definitely can have a minute or two for one or two people, if they choose, to speak about the benefits they're having. The benefits could be very subtle. The benefits could actually be more emotional. It's pretty easy to be in a bad mood when you have bladder leakage and you got to worry about where you go and what you do and how you time things. And just want to mention again that this is a very, very, very common issue across our country. And it breaks no age barrier. It's young women, it's midlife women, it's older women, and we just want to take care of it. So thanks, everybody, and I am ready for some questions.
Okay, your first question. Do men have this problem?
Absolutely. Men have as much of the issue as women, especially as they get older. Because women have babies and because women have a hormonal change in their midlife, women are more prevalent to have incontinence. So the exercises, I know for a fact, have benefited men, and they generally don't join our classes. They generally learn them from their wife or their partner.
Sue wants to know, what if your back cannot be against the back of the chair, if your legs need to be flat on the ground for the marching exercise?
So in my demonstration, I just turned, but technically you're not leaning back in the chair at all. You're sitting a little toward the front of the chair. Next.
Do we hold our pelvic muscle at in all movements?
Today's movements, yes. The homework from last week, no, there's a rest period. So it's a contract and release. Today, you hold the lower belly muscle taut, not extremely pulled in, but you hold it the whole exercise, and then you release or relax in between exercises. And once again, main thing, absolutely main thing, don't hold your breath. Make sure you're breathing.
Can these exercises also benefit men?
Didn't we answer that? I think we answered that. Yes.
Another woman asked that question. I had an easier time doing the first two exercises laying down. Is that considered a modification? Stacy is asking.
It's absolutely fine to do the exercises lying down. Doing them on the floor is the most beneficial, and I don't recommend getting down on the floor if you haven't been doing that regularly. So it's really a matter of what your physical ability is today. Don't try to get down on the floor for more benefit till you're ready. And next week, we're going to work a bit on exercises that improve your leg strength as well as your pelvic pyramid muscles. I will add that your lower back issues have the chance to improve significantly today from today's exercises.
Okay, I think that's about all the questions. I'm going to answer a question. Do you have a recording of the session from last week? You can go to the YouTube channel and search for AARP. If you're a registered member for the classes, if you had registered for the first and second and also the third, you will be receiving a recorded copy after this presentation. So let's see. That was it. Okay.
Oh, I see one.
Yes. Is it
Uh,
more beneficial to hold the pelvic muscle during sitting, bike, and elliptical exercises?
it's more beneficial to engage your pelvic muscles doing everything and anything at a stoplight, in the grocery store line, wherever and however you can, because the fact of the matter is we have gravity going against us that's putting pressure on the poor bladder. We have so the internal organs are all dropping as we age. We have sitting going against good posture and pelvic muscles. We sit like a banana, we watch TV, we drive our car, we're on our phone, and bananas aren't allowed in life except to eat them. So absolutely, while you're on while you're on in a long-term exercise session on a piece of cardio equipment, it might be a really great idea to do some long sustained holds and some short contractions. So I'll talk about that a little bit more next week, but long sustained holds and short contractions benefited our participants in the past the most, not just one or the other.
Sue is asking, how close is your pelvic muscle from your core muscles?
They're really deep. They are not on the surface. So once again, to think you're going to feel them is an incorrect thought. You're going to feel some slight swelling or a raising of the area at most, even when your pelvic muscles have gotten really strong. I did one of our subsequent retrainings about 5 years after I had helped develop the program, and it was an all-day session in Chicago. And after the 9 to 5 seminar, went home, went on my merry way, and the next day I'm like, oh, I'm so sore deep in my pelvis. I can't believe it. But we were literally doing hundreds to practice and to learn how to teach better. And I got sore in muscles I never knew I had.
Okay, so that was the last question. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
One more.
I'm
Is your
sorry.
pelvic joined to your hips? There's 630 muscles in the body. Actually, 10 more have been found in the last few years. It's a pretty subtle connection of the pelvic muscles to the hip muscles, but yes, there is a correlation, especially when we talked about the TVA, the transverse abdominis. The hip muscles or the hip joints are generally protected and healthier by working your butt muscle, your glute muscles, the glute medius, the glute minimus, and the glute maximus. And those muscles are not connected to the pelvic floor. So it's a great question.
Yep.
Simply because having glute amnesia, butt amnesia, is the source of many of the things that ail us in life, including knee pain, ankle pain, low back pain. So work your butt.
Okay. Any more questions? Are there any more questions? Does your hip flexors tie to pelvic?
That's just talked about that.
Okay. Alrighty.
I appreciate everyone so much. Be putting on your brave cape next week so I can understand who would like to share a bit about their progress.
Okay. There we go. Okay, we hope you enjoyed today's neighbor talk. If you would like to join us next week for our other programs, please check our upcoming events at www.aarp.org/Hawaii. And I want to say a mahalo